I have lived in Japan for my whole life, except 1 year when I studied abroad in South Korea. I've also been lucky enough to travel to a few other countries, which gave me a new perspective. Before going abroad, I often thought Japan is a bit boring. I want to go and see the world. But to be honest, every time I came back from a trip, I often found myself thinking Japan is actually such a calm, safe and comfortable place to live. So if you're thinking about visiting Japan or even moving here, there's a lot to look forward to. Today I'm going to share 5 important things you should know before coming to Japan based on my personal experience and the things that really surprised me after living abroad. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Megumi. I was born and raised in Okinawa, Japan. When I was 20, I studied abroad in South Korea for about a year, and that's when my passion for language learning really began. Currently, I speak Japanese, English and Korean and working on my 4th language, German. I also create language learning content on YouTube and teach Japanese online. Today's video will cover 5 key points, and as always I put timestamps down below, so feel free to skip around the video if you feel like it. Let's get started. Let's start with a classic one. Something you should know before visiting Japan is we slurp the noodles. I still remember the shocked face of my foreign friend the first time I ate like this in front of them, and it was quite funny. That's why I wanted to talk about this first. When I see someone slurping their noodles, I often think, wow, they're really enjoying their food, and it makes me want to eat too. According to a newspaper article I read, during the Edo period, cold soba dishes like zaru soba became very popular. People would dip just half the noodles into the sauce and slurp them up along with a bit of air, which actually enhances the flavor. Since soba is thinner than udon, it naturally makes a slurping sound. Over time, this style of eating became known as the cool or stylish way to enjoy soba in Edo. Personally, I also slurp because I want to eat the noodles while they're still hot. If you try to eat them slowly like pasta, it's honestly just too hot. So slurping helps you avoid burning your lips, and it keeps the noodles nice and warm. So if you visit Japan and see people slurping noodles like ramen or soba, don't be shocked because it's completely normal here. Just to clarify, we don't slurp pasta. That also depends on the person. Alright, number 2. Japan still really loves cash. Until quite recently, there were lots of places where you could only pay in cash, which was quite frustrating for tourists, and it was also on the news. Thankfully, things have changed quite a bit. Most shops now accept cards and QR code payments. I haven't seen a cash-only place in a while. But still, if you're heading into the countryside or visiting small local shops, you might still come across places that only take cash. Even though digital payments are becoming more common, but still many Japanese people prefer using cash. According to Japan's Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, the cashless payment rate in 2024 was 42.5%. But when you compare it to countries like South Korea, it's around 95%, or China about 80%. So don't be surprised if you see queues moving slowly at the till or people fumbling with coins. It's normal here. So the question is, why do people still prefer cash? Mainly because there's a strong sense of trust in physical money. A lot of people like being able to see how much they've spent or saved. It helps with budgeting and self-management, most people believe. Also, when we go out and split the bill, we almost always do it in cash. We often use different banks or payment apps, so it's just easier to hand someone a note or some coins, at least in my experience. So yes, if you're visiting Japan, make sure carry with you some cash. You'll probably be fine most of the time, but it's always better to have just in case. Number 3. Always ask before taking someone's photo. This is a common rule anywhere in the world, but especially in Japan it's super important. Even if you know, you should ask. When you're traveling and see someone in a beautiful kimono or cool cosplay, it's tempting to just snap a photo. But most people in Japan, no matter how stylish they look, they don't like being photographed without permission. There was even a viral video of a famous Japanese YouTuber calling someone out for doing just that, and many people strongly agree with it. In Japan, people usually don't directly say, please don't do that. Instead, we have this concept, 空気を読む. Reading the air, picking up unspoken social cues, and avoiding actions that might make someone uncomfortable. So even if someone doesn't say anything, it doesn't mean they're okay with it. That's why this is a really important point. I've seen more and more social media posts, people saying tourists took their picture without asking and it made them feel uncomfortable or even upset. Of course, I'm sure you wouldn't do that, but just as a reminder, always ask first. すいません、写真を撮ってもいいですか? すいません、とても綺麗なので写真を撮りたいんですけど. It means, excuse me, may I take a photo of you? Where I live in Okinawa, people more tend to be direct, but among young people, like teens or 20s, it's still quite rare to say something. And social norms in Japan, it can vary quite a lot depending on the region, which I think is really fascinating. Number 4. A different way of saying thank you. This one is probably my favorite cultural difference. I noticed it most clearly when I traveled to the UK. If someone held the door open or let someone pass, they would say thank you in a clear, confident voice. And I was surprised how loud it sounded, in a good way. It felt so polite and genuine. It really left a positive impression. In Japan, we don't usually say ありがとうございます out loud in those everyday situations. Instead, we tend to mumble something like あざます quickly and quietly, and then give a little bow called an eshaku. Bowing is basically expected here, even if you don't say anything at all. Some people don't speak at all and just bow instead. One of the reasons is that ありがとうございます is quite long to say, but also because bow itself means thank you. In Japan, raising your voice, especially in public, is often seen as a bit awkward or disruptive. So instead, people express gratitude more subtly. So if you're in Japan, then you help someone out, they don't say to you anything, don't worry about it. If they give you a little bow, that is their way of saying thank you. They're not being rude, they're just showing gratitude in the Japanese way. That little bow can carry just as much meaning as words, sometimes even more. Number 5. Don't just throw it away anywhere. In Japan, there's almost no litter on the streets. You might have heard of this before, but it's absolutely true. Well, it depends on the area, but what's really amazing is that even without bins, the streets are still incredibly clean. Honestly, Japan might be one of the cleanest countries I've ever seen. So where does all the rubbish go? Most people just carry it with them. We will either put it in our bag or use a little plastic pouch and hold onto it until we find a proper place to dispose of it, usually at home or at a shop. The best thing to do, carry your rubbish with you until you see a bin, or wait until you're home. If you really need to throw something away, you can try asking a shop assistant. But keep in mind, if you didn't buy it there, they might say no. Convenience stores are especially strict about this. You often see signs that say no household waste, meaning you're not allowed to throw it in rubbish. Supermarkets or large department stores are usually a bit more flexible, so there are fewer bins than you might be used to, which is why I recommend bringing a small plastic bag when you're out and about. It makes our life a lot easier. It might seem a bit inconvenient at first, but once you get used to it, it feels completely normal. And I think it's quite inspiring. People here genuinely care about keeping things clean. So those are 5 important things you should know before coming to Japan, based on my own experience living here and abroad. So if you've ever been to Japan or if you live here, I would like to hear your experience too. Feel free to share it in the comments. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I also have a Japanese podcast and Korean channel. If you're interested, please check it out. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!